All right. Welcome to the show, Claude. We're so glad that you could be here with us today and share your passion about wine. Maybe you could start by telling us a little about where that passion got started.
Yes, Ryan. First of all, I'm glad to be here with you guys. And I started liking wine many years ago when I was working out west in Banff. The hotel, the Banff Springs Hotel was opening a new restaurant, a Five Diamond restaurant. And to be part of that restaurant, you needed to be a certified sommelier. So they asked me if I was interested in joining the team, and to be able to do that, I had to follow a course, sommelier course. So I did for about a year and a half at the State University in Calgary with the organization called International Sommelier Guild. And then I did the class, and really hard, tough class to do. And then that's how I became a sommelier. And more I was serving wine, I was recommending wine, I was still learning about wine. It really became a passion to me. So that's how it started for me, right?
And I know I've heard the term sommelier before, whether it was at a restaurant or a dinner party. Maybe you could explain exactly what a sommelier does.
Sommelier is a person who will give you, let's say you're a client, and then you come to the restaurant and you need some advice on wine, or you want to pair your food, the food you're going to pick from the menu, with some wine. So the sommelier will be there to guide you according to your budget, first of all, to your taste, the style of wine that you like, and the food you ordered. And the sommelier is going to guide you through those steps and present the wine you selected from the advice that the sommelier gave you. And then the sommelier will present the wine, will open the wine, will taste the wine for you. If there's a problem with the wine, you will not even see the wine or taste the wine. We'll switch to a new bottle, and then to make sure that the wine you ordered is clean, is in good condition, and then the show starts.
Cool. So when we taste wine, how does exactly that work? And what are the steps when you do a tasting like that?
Yes. First of all, I just want to explain how wine is made. Wine comes from the grapes, of course. We all know that. So we take some grapes, we add some yeast, so that induces an alcoholic fermentation. So what's happening is the natural sugar of the grape with the yeast is being converted into alcohol and CO2. So when the fermentation is happening, it's happening in a big open vat. The CO2 evaporates and you're left with the wine. So basically, that's how wine is made. And then we'll talk about tasting wine. Tasting wine there's three different components when you taste wine. To help us tasting wine or learn about tasting wine, what I'm going to do, I'm going to open a bottle of wine, okay? And we're going to go through those steps. So I don't know if you can see the bottle. That's the wine I'm going to open. You can see that Zenato is the producer of the wine. Ripassa, the Valpolicella, that's the name of the wine. Valpolicella is a region in the Veneto region of Italy. And then we need to look at the vintage. Vintage is 2016. So let's open this.
That was a very good year.
Oh, yeah. Year is important, very important, specifically to the old world wine. We're going to come back to that a bit later. So I'm opening that wine, and then we're going to taste the wine. We're going to go through different steps of tasting wine. What is important, you don't punch the cork all the way through, so it doesn't put corks crumble into the wine.
I've made that mistake a few times myself.
Oh, I did too, don't worry. And then the cork. We'll talk about the cork a bit later. But you see, cork, if that one is not very old, the wine has to be stored horizontally. So the wine is in contact with the bottom of the cork. So you'll see a red pigmentation on the cork. And if you can see the red going all the way through the cork, that means the oxygen went through the cork and oxidized the wine. So the wine, it's a sign when you looked at the cork that the wine might be oxidized. But this cork is in really good condition right now. What we'll do, we're going to pour, not a lot, 1.5 ounces, 2 ounces of wine into the glass, max. So this is the wine I just opened. You can see it.
A lovely red.
Lovely red. We're going to go through those steps. So the first step is the visual. When we look at the wine, then there's the olfactory, the smell, when we nose the wine, and there's the gustatory, the taste, when we taste the wine itself. So let's see, why do we look at the wine, first of all? Any idea?
I always was just looking for small pieces of cork.
That's good. That's a good reason. That's the first good reason. You can look at the sediment. If the wine is old, you're going to get some sediments at the bottom of the glass. That means the wine with the slow pace oxidation will put the sediments that comes from the skin of the grape, the pips and the stems. So it's going to decompose and go at the bottom of the glass. So that's a sign of age, first of all, the sediments in the glass.
And is that okay, or should we throw that wine out?
No, it's okay. Older wines will always, depending of the grape varietal, will always get sediments at the bottom. That's why you want to decant wine. We're going to talk about this a little bit later. But the visual gives you an idea of the age of the wine. Then you want to look at the wine from the color. You look at the color of the wine. When we use a white background, I don't know with the camera here if you can see.
Okay, yeah.
Color of the wine.
It's a deep, deep ruby red, it looks like.
Absolutely. Very good description in the color. That gives you an indication about this is a young wine, first of all, as a purple color. When the wine is a young wine, as it ages, it's going to oxidize. So the oxygen will go through the cork, like I said before, at a slow pace. So it's aging the wine. As the wine is aging, being in contact with the oxygen, it's going to change color. So it's going to become more of a brick color, brownish color as it ages. So that's the second reason why you want to look at the wine. Sediments, clear, and purple or brownish garnet color with the age. These are the main reasons why you want to look at the wine. So step number 2, the nose. We want to smell the wine. So what you do, you put the wine onto a table. Let's pretend this is a table. So you give it a swirl. So what it's doing now, all the molecules of the wines are hitting the sides of the glass. So it releases the aroma of the wine. And what you want to do while you're done swirling, you put your nose straight into the glass and you smell. Beautiful. The wine is clean on the nose. That's what you say. If the wine if there would be a fault, you would smell it on the nose. If the wine would be cork, by example, you would smell cork in the wine, which is a bad thing. But on the nose, the wine is clean. And then you can identify what you smell from the wine. This particular wine, you get really ripe fruit, mature grapes, ripe. Alcohol is there, but it's well balanced. It's too bad we cannot do that all together, but that's what I get from the nose. So it's clean, it smells good, and then what you do is you taste the wine. Oh, I'm not done with visual, sorry. When you look at the wine as well, can you see, Ryan? When I gave it a swirl, can you see the rim, the rounded surface that is left on the top of the glass? Can you see?
I think so, yeah. And it kind of looks like it's dripping a little bit.
Okay,
like
these are the legs. This is the rim around, and these are the legs that are going down in the side of the glass. Okay? The rim, when you look at the rim, bigger the rim is, fatter the rim is, bigger style the wine will be. Okay? Because I talked about the skin that imparts the tannic structure of the wine. Okay, so bigger the wine is, bigger the rim will be, bigger style of wine it's going to be. There's chances that tannins are going to be there. Tannins are the aftertaste when you're finished swallowing and you're left with it dries out your mouth like an old tea on the counter that you drink the next morning. It dries out your mouth. These are tannins in wines. So big wines like this one, or Cabernet Sauvignon, or Shiraz, they are wines with a big tannic structure. I'll tell you later how to pair that type of wine with what type of food. But then we look at the rim. It's fat. It's a big style of wine. We look at the rim now, the legs now. Can you see the speed that the legs are going down on the side of the glass? Can you see that? It's hard, but
it's a little hard on the camera, but I know what you mean because I've seen that. I never knew what it meant, though. I sometimes pretend to look smart at restaurants and swirl, but I didn't know what I was actually looking for.
Okay, well, you look at the legs going down in the side of the glass. You look at the speed that these legs are going down. The slower the legs are going down, that means higher the alcohol content of the wine will be. Because of the viscosity of alcohol, which is higher than water, let's say. If it would be water, the legs would go down very quickly. But the viscosity of the wine being higher, the legs sticks to the side of the glass for a longer period of time before going down. That means it's a sign of higher alcohol content. These legs are going down at a very slow pace. And if I look at the label, it will be written the alcohol content. 14% alcohol. So this is a big wine.
Yeah, most of the ones that I usually have at home are around 12 or 12.5. So that is a little bit more than the normal.
Correct. More sun exposure the grapes will have, riper it's going to get. And so all the sugar will be converted into alcohol. Higher alcohol content is going to be. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So we looked at the wine, we nose the wine. From the nose, you'll get, there's a chart. You can smell from different grape varietals, different regions of the world. You're going to get different nose on the wines. From diesel to raspberry to peach to, there's a wide variety of nose on the wines depending of the grape varietals and the regions.
When you were doing your sommelier course, was there like a test where they had all of those different wines and you'd have to smell them and figure out what those were?
Yes, to make it quick, I had it was a 2-day exam, 2-day, 8-hour per day exam,
Oh my
5
goodness.
different modules, and one of them I had 24 glasses of wine in front of me, and I had to identify the grape varietal, the country, the vintage, and the 3 fault wines in the float, and explain what fault there was in the wine. So that's a big process.
I can imagine.
Close that parenthesis. Now, we did the visual, we did the nose. We're going to do the taste when we taste the wine. So it smells good. What you do is you put the wine into your mouth and you try to do a little hole with your lips. And you breathe through it, like what I'm going to do right now. And you swallow. So what you want to do is to have the wine all over your mouth. So the wine on your tongue, that's where it's going to react on your tongue. If the wine has a lot of acidity, your tongue will feel the acidity on the side of the tongue. In the back, you're going to feel the bitterness of the wine. On the center, more up front, you will feel the sweetness of the wine or any other things that you taste. And on the very tip of the tongue, you'll feel the saltiness. If you feel salt in a wine, there's a fault. It's a fault wine. There's a problem. So that's why you want to have the wine all over your tongue to get a real feel of the wine and its characteristics as well. And when you put a hole and you breathe through it, so all the taste buds of your tongue are on the top of each other, like a roof of a house. So when you breathe, you rise them up and you can really get a feeling of the wine, what it tastes like.
And just to be sure I'm understanding properly, when you say hole, do you mean like that kind of like that curling of the tongue?
Not really the tongue, but with your lips, so you can breathe through that hole. So it's going
Okay.
to lift your taste buds when you taste.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I understand. Okay, good.
Okay. So these are the three major components of the wine. Components of tasting wine, let's say.
And is it the same? It would use the same steps if it was a red or a white? Does it matter?
Absolutely. You'll just look at different colors, but the nose has to be clean, and the breathing step is the same. It is the same, just appropriate to the white or the red, but I mean, it's the same process.
So once you've tasted it, like, how do you actually go ahead with that pairing and then decide which wines go best with what food?
Good question, Ryan. When you pair wine with food, there's two thoughts of school on that. When you pair wine with food, you always try, myself and many people always try to match the intensity of the wine with the intensity of the food. If a light body wine will fit well with lighter style of food. Heavy food, fat food, heavier style of wine. That's a really good basic thing to remember. Acidic food with acidic wine. Tonight I'm going to have some pasta. That's why I opened that wine. I'm going to have some pasta with tomato sauce. Acidity from the tomato with the acidity from the wine. Acidity with acidity, it matches really well in your mouth. Okay. To do a test, you have a bite of the food with a little sip of the wine in your mouth at the same time, and try to realize which is one overpowering the other. Is the wine stronger than the food, and vice versa? So acidic food, acidic wine. Sweet food, sweet wine. Desserts with dessert wine goes really well together. But while we're on this dessert, always get a wine that is sweeter than your food, than your dessert, let's say.
Okay, that's a very good tip.
Yeah. So big wine, big food, big wine. Light wine, light food. Light food, light wine. Acidic with acidity, sweetness with the sweetness as well. Avoid fat goes well with proteins as well. Fat, proteins with tannins, I mean, goes really well together. A big raw steak with proteins, this wine, or a Cabernet Sauvignon or a Shiraz will go really well. Those proteins, they need those tannins to neutralize and balance together. Okay?
And I guess that's why they suggest a white wine with fish?
Correct. And still there, it's where the two mentality comes in. Fish, if it's just a grilled fish, depending if it's a fatty fish or not, a nice Sauvignon Blanc, light, high acidity with light grilled fish goes really well together. Or if you're having a sauce, a cream sauce with your fish, with a Chardonnay, oaky style of Chardonnay, California, Australia type of Chardonnay, with the cream sauce with your fish, would balance out well together. So, and the second school of thought on acidity, light Sauvignon Blanc with a creamy sauce as well. So it works well because of the acidity, which cuts through the fat of the food, and it balances out as well.
When you were talking about the tasting, you also kind of mentioned that concept of old world wine and new world wine. I've heard that before when I've gone into the liquor store, but what does it mean? Okay.
Good question, actually. Old world wine versus new world wine. Old world, these are the countries, first of all, the wine is coming from. France, Italy, Portugal, Spain. These are old world wine. Canada, United States, Australia are newer style of wine. The biggest difference, I would say, is the mentality. Old world wine in France, the guy will say, I'm producing this wine this way because my dad was producing this wine that way as well, and his dad, my grandfather, was producing that wine that way as well. First of all, mentality. Second, rules. There's lots of regulations for the old world wines. They're going to regulate the productivity of the plant, how much grapes you're going to get out of your plant to produce wine. So you measure that. I'll try to make it simple. You measure that in hectoliter per hectare. Okay? So let's say in the Champagne region of France, the rule is you cannot exceed 45 hectoliter per hectare of vine plant. You cannot produce more than that much wine on that parcel. Okay, you have to get rid of grapes to respect that productivity of the plant, the yielding of the plant. Okay, so regulations are very important. You cannot irrigate your land when in France, in old world wine. General rule, you cannot irrigate. As opposed to the new world wine, and sorry, we go back to the old world wine. They will never tell you the grape varietal on the label for the old world wine. As opposed to the new world wine, totally different. The mentality there is if you can involve technology as much as you can to produce a better wine, do it. And there is not as much regulations. You're not going to get those restrictions on yielding and productivity.
And I'm guessing that's what allows them to do more of those mixes of grapes?
Mixes of grapes will come from the style of wine. Let's say Bordeaux. That's where you're going to blend grapes. In Bordeaux, you will never see Cabernet Sauvignon 100%. In a different lesson, if everything goes well and people are interested, we're going to do regions, wine regions, and what style of grape varietal grow in which regions. But in Bordeaux, it's always going to be a blend. So it's always going to be Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, at minimum those three. Petit Verdot, Malbec are other grape varietals that might be blended in Bordeaux as well. But still there in Bordeaux, that blend, and depending of the region of Bordeaux, you're going to get différents assemblages, different blends. You see? Yeah. And to make it short, let's say this is Bordeaux here. You got a river in the middle, which is called the Gironde River. The left bank, Merlot and Cabernet Franc will grow better on this side of the river because of the type of soil, which is sandy. On the right bank, Gironde River, right bank, the type of soil is rocky, and Cabernet Sauvignon grows better on that type of soil. So depending of which sub-region of Bordeaux the wine comes from, you'll know what is the majority of the grape varietal that is blended in the wine. You see where I'm going?
Yeah. Well, I feel like I already know more now, because before I just thought I was impressed when I was like, oh, well, champagne can only come from Champagne, France. So I felt that was I felt like, you can't call a bubbly from Italy champagne, because that only is in France. A bubbly from Italy as a Prosecco. That's my little bit of knowledge. That's my tip for the viewers out there. You can roll with that. I won't pretend to be an expert, but you can use that in your next trivia night. Now, earlier you were talking about age in a barrel when you were talking about Chardonnay, which is one of my favorite whites, is that nice oaky Chardonnay. So maybe you can explain a little bit about the barrel process and maybe why we are aging wine in oak barrels.
Yes. Aging wine in oak barrel is really up to the winemaker. It's up to what style of wine the winemaker wants to achieve. So for that reason, he's going to use different type of oak barrel. Chardonnay, first of all. You like oaky Chardonnay. You'll go in California, you'll go in Australia, and they're going to use usually American type of oak. If we go in Burgundy, in France, more up north of Burgundy, there's the Chablis region, and it's 100% Chardonnay when you drink a Chablis. It's never going to be written Chardonnay in the label. It's going to be Chardonnay. So, but a totally different style of Chardonnay from the type of soil and the use of oak. So those French people, for those who are going to use oak barrel, they're going to use French oak barrel as opposed to American oak barrel. Big difference, two big differences. French oak barrel costs twice as much as the American oak barrel. And the style is completely different. I mean, the grain of the wood in the oak barrel is really tight in French oak barrel, as opposed to the grain is very loose in American oak barrel. So American oak barrel, the oak being loose, is going to impart a lot of oaky flavors to the wine quickly. And the tight grain of the French oak will impart a delicate, slowly impart flavor of oak barrel to the wine. You see where I'm going?
Yes, I think now I've never tried a Chablis, so now I'm going to have to add that to my list of things to try.
Do it. And some Chablis are not even being aged in oak barrel. Some of them are being aged in oak barrel. You'll feel it on the tongue, or you'll have to do some research. But one thing for sure, they're going to use French oak barrel, which costs twice as much as that American oak. You can use brand new oak barrel, 1 year oak barrel, 2 year, 3 years, a blend of those years, a couple months in new, then we transfer in old. So it's all different techniques that are going to give a different style of wine. It's really up to the winemaker to do that.
Okay, I have a question for you that maybe you can help debate that I had before, obviously, the COVID quarantines or isolations. I was bringing a bottle of wine to a party, and I was in the vintage section where I'm in Ontario, Ottawa, so that's kind of where our local liquor store, where the nice bottles of wines are. And I was looking at one with a screw cap versus a corkscrew, and my friend was like, "Oh, you don't want to bring that. That's not a good bottle of wine." And so I'm really not sure. Could you maybe talk a little about the differences between corks and the synthetic closures, and really what is all of that, and explain maybe that I was right, which is really, really what I really want to know. Was I right? Could that have been a good bottle of wine, or does the cork really make a difference?
Well, cork makes a difference, but it doesn't mean that a synthetic cork will necessarily be cheaper than the cork. Let me explain. Cork, we mentioned it before. Cork, the benefit of it is the fact that older wine, the wine that you want to age, there will be a slow pace oxidation of the wine through the cork, very slow pace oxidation. So wine that you want to keep in your cellar for a while, you might choose a wine that has a real cork, as opposed to synthetic cork or twist cap. Is the same idea. It just seals the bottle. So when you get that synthetic cork or the twist, no oxygen at all can come in through the wine and oxidize the wine at a slow pace. So this is the main difference about real cork, which there's less and less cork on the market as well, because of it's getting an extension, the skin of a tree. There's less and less. So people had to find a better way to produce wine, or to put wine in the bottle. But to age wine, this cork is better. One benefit for aging wine, with that cork, but one downfall from from the real cork is a wine that can be corked. A wine that is fault is it is actually a bacteria that lives on cork only, and that imparts that corky flavor to the wine. So you will never get a cork wine out of a synthetic cork, not possible, or a twist cap.
Okay, so that's how I can make that argument and win.
Well, yeah, but now in California you can find some bottles, $300-400 bottles of wine with a synthetic cork or a twist as well.
Really? Wow.
So just my basic recommendation is, if you want to store your wine, to age it for a while, you better find a real cork. If it's a wine that is ready to be drank, or you want to drink soon, twist synthetic, glass. There's some glass ones as well that are really tight, that are sealed to the bottles now, are good as well. So it's really up to, do you want to age it or you want to drink it soon?
Well, don't judge me, but because of the quarantine, I did have some wine ordered, and to make life easier, I just got it out of the box. Um, and I was thinking, in my cleverness, that maybe if I decanted it, it would make it a little bit better. Could you talk a little bit about decanting wine and why we do that and what the process would be?
Yes, absolutely. Another good question. When we decant wine, there's two reasons why we decant wines. The first one is for older vintages. We mentioned before, from the skin, from the pips, from the pulp. It's gonna, when the wine age is gonna leave some sediment at the bottom of the wine. So you want to decant the wine for that reason. An older wine to separate sediments from the wine, the liquid. For that reason, there's two different style of decanters. That first one is a Venetian decanter. So that's why when you want to decant a wine that has sediment into it. So what you do, you pour the wine into the decanter, usually with a candle right here. In restaurants, that's what we do. You put a candle behind the neck of the bottle. So when you pour the wine into the decanter with the candle, you can see the sediment being stuck in the neck of the bottle. So the wine, the liquid is poured into the decanter and all the sediments are stuck in the bottle. So you separate the wine from the sediment. That's the reason for older wines with sediment, that style of decanter, which is narrow. Second reason, we're going to use a Captain decanter. Captain decanter, look at the base, how wide it is. And when you pour the wine into the decanter, the surface of the wine that's going to be in contact with the oxygen. So what you want to do is to oxidize the wine quicker. So you're speeding the aging process of the wine, basically. You can pour very quickly, flip it down, the wine is being poured into the carafe, and then all the molecules of the wine becomes in contact with the oxygen. It oxidizes the wine, and it supples down the tannic structure of the wine. So the wine is more approachable. Be a young wine, tight, high tannins, it's going to be more approachable if it's oxidized in a wide carafe, Captain carafe decanter.
That might just be something I want to try with my box o' wine. Safety first, Claude. I can't be running to the liquor store every day.
I'm not going to talk too much about box and wine.
So, what are the best conditions? Because I'm not sure, but I think you have like a wine cooler behind you. So what are the best conditions to store wine, especially now that maybe we are going and buying a little bit more in bulk because we're doing maybe one trip to our local wine shop?
Yes. First of all, not a wine cooler, wine cellar. A wine cooler would be a mini fridge where you store your wine, you set your temperature, and it's not for aging wine. It's to have a good-looking piece in your living room and to keep it at a certain temperature. The best conditions would be temperature control, humidity control. You want your humidity to be between 60 and 80% humidity to keep the wine in good condition. If the humidity is too high, the label is gonna be destroyed from the humidity, and the cork mold can build on the cork as well. So you don't want a humidity too high. Higher than 75-80% is going to be too high. Too dry, well, your cork is going to dry out. It's going to shrink. The oxygen will go through the cork, and it's going to oxidize the wine. So you don't want that either. So humidity, temperature control between 8 and 13, 14 degrees. You drink your white cooler. You drink your red warmer. 12, 13, 8 to 10 for whites and champagne or sparkling. But temperature control, humidity control, no vibration. You don't want to disturb the sediments if there is. Horizontal, so the cork is in contact with the wine when the wine is horizontal. And no light. if your cellar or where you store your wine, your bottles, there's a direct light from the sun all day, it's going to cook the wine. It's going to maderize the wine, we say. So that's another fault in wine. Madeira is a city of Portugal. That's a style of wine that they cook in oak barrel under the sun for a long time. So the wine it cooks the wine actually. So you don't want to store your wines from the cellar in the sun. So no vibration, horizontal, no sun, and humidity and temperature control, right?
Okay, I think I've got all of that. And luckily for us, this is a video, so we're going to post this video chat. So if you have missed any of these great tips, you can go back and watch them. I know I will, because the next time I host a dinner or go to a party, I might just sound a little bit smarter. Claude, I want to thank you for joining us today. This was great. Keep safe, keep healthy, and have a glass of wine for me.
I will, definitely. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure joining you, Ryan, and hopefully advertise some people in those rough days.
Excellent. All right, well, have a great one, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Ryan. Bye-bye.